Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're gonna talk about AWS Cognito. So basically, AWS Cognito is secure identity and access management for apps. So AWS Cognito user pool let you add registration and sign into your apps. With AWS Cognito identity pools, you can provide AWS credential to access to your cloud resources. So some benefits and feature of AWS Cognito. So the very first is secure and scalable user directory in which user pool are secure to user directories that scale the 2 million of user. And the next one is social and enterprise identity federation. With Amazon Cognito, your user can sign in through social identity providers like Google, Facebook, Amazon, etc. So the third one is standard based authentication. AWS Cognito user pool support identity and access management standards. So the next one is security for your apps and user. So the AWS Cognito has encryption and multi-factor authentication capabilities. So the next one is access control for AWS resources. AWS Cognito let us control access to backend resource from your app. So the next one is easy integration with your app. It use Amazon AWS Cognito built-in UI and option for federation with multiple identity providers. So in the user case, add user directives to your app, add user data into an AWS Cognito user pool or bring it from identity providers. So it grant access to AWS services. So in this the relative services which is AWS IAM, AWS Lambda, AWS CloudWatch, AWS Pinpoint, Amazon Simple Email Services like SES, AWS Amplify. So in this for the Cognito identify pools are free of charge. With Cognito user pools you can pay for what you use. So in the very first step you have to just create user pool. So we can start to set up our authentication provider. You can see there are two options here. There is Cognito user pool which is checked by default, and this is how you would create and manage user with Cognito. But there are also federated identity which if you want to set up of some of that you can sign in with Google Logic that I mentioned earlier. So we are going to do that today. Sign in options we have got to pick it one. So I'm going to select for that email that I that generally my preferred way of signing in. Usually one user had access to one email uh, something. So we will go ahead and select and click next. So for the next one is we have to select for password policies. We will leave as the default. In multi-factor authentication is one spot where do we want to change it. I want to select MFA, no MFA. If you are building this for a production environment, having multi-factor authentication is definitely recommended. So I mean kind of beyond the scope of in this video, so I'm going to skip that process. We can see we have self-service account recovery, uh, which allow user to reset their own password, and then here where those recovery messages would go. Now we were just going to select and leave and select all. So in the next step we have service self service sign up. If you are building a public application where you want anybody to be able to create a user account for your application, leave that checked. If you are building something internally, you want to leave that unchecked, because this basically means that anybody on the street can come in and create an account of your internal. So the next step is for the email. So so in this we choose email with Cognito, which is totally fine. So in the next step we have to now we have to integrate app in which we enter a user pool name, which is kind of arbitrary. It is whatever you want to use identify with in your AWS console. So we will do you my user pool. Yeah, so In the next, we choose host authentication pages, use a Cognito host UI. In the next domain type, in which we have two type, like use a Cognito domain, use a Cognito custom domain. So we will choose a Cognito domain. So I'll put the name like user pool 67. So I think this is not available, so I'll change this name. So yeah, I'll put name user pool which is available. In the next, we have initial app client, which we will choose public client. And we want app client name, so I'm selected as client name, which is default app client. So in the next, so the app client are used to handle certain permission. If you wanted to have to say some users to have access to certain bits of your systems to other user have access different bit app client to control some that logic we only need, so we will leave it as default. We want to make sure not to generate client secret, because this is typically used to server authentication. We will not going to do in this. So and the callback URL, this is important, this is required. And once you sign in a user, it redirects them to site within the tokens that we are going to, that Cognito going to create in the URL. So I'm putting the URL jwt.io. This is very nice tool for kind of debugging these things and showing what the jwt is looks like on the screen. So in the next identity, so in the next step, identity prover, we will have to select open standard, but it support a couple of different flow. You code grant is the most secure. So you write some code to basically validate. So choose infrequent. So then we are pretty much done this page. So the next step is the summary of the next step, like what we are doing, what we are given our name, etc, etc. So in the next, we have to create user pool. Now we can see we have my user pool is created in our list of user pool. Let's go ahead and select that, and right away we will drop into the view viewer. We can see the user that you exist inside in our system. Okay, then some of the statuses around them and various informative. So anyway, we don't have any user right now. We will going to go ahead and click on create user. I'm going select send an email invitation, as it kind of states it is going to send this email address, an email saying that here your username or email address, that here is temporary password, so you no need to use reset your account. I'm going to use mine, so I can show here what the email look like. We gonna mark the email verified, because we don't need the person actually verify the email, it's mine, so that's fine. We gonna select generate password, or also set a password selected as per our choice. So I chose generate a password, then click the next, that is create user. So yeah, our user is created. So this is, so the username is not necessarily that you can see, it's not the email address, but it's just a random guide. Here is the kind of your user's unique identifier. The email address actually has an email address which we are gonna use to sign in. Then we see the status here is force change password, then it matters, then the it is enable. So uh, let's check. We have temporary passwords which is sent by this. So the next one is we have to just redirect. So from here, since out is a standard, there is a standard kind of set of URLs that need to be crafted and created for user to be able to sign in. If you are familiar with the protocol, you kind of if you are not with, which probably not, if here maybe you are, I don't know. We gonna, I'll show you how to create the one for this implicit grant type that we are just did. So I'm going to open a new tab in which we need to insert the URL. So I'll copy this command and paste it over here, which I saved earlier. So it will show me the sign in as which I use earlier with my Gmail. So here is we redirect our page, that is JWT, which we are set up in earlier as our video. So yeah, this is all about the AWS Cognito, in which we create user pool. This is our app client ID. So this is pretty much simple to set up AWS Cognito with user pool. So this is how our application is set up with the help of AWS Cognito. So that's all from my side. Hope you like it. Bye.